Hello all, very good morning. So we were discussing regarding the infectious heart diseases. In our previous classes we have seen what is endocarditis and we have also seen what is myocarditis, and in this class I would like to discuss you what is pericarditis. So here it is nothing but the swelling and irritation of membranous sac which is enveloping your heart. It is called as pericardium. What is pericardium? It is the outer layer of the heart. So here pericarditis, it can be two types, acute and chronic, and it is associated with sharp chest pain. So you can observe the pericardium rub, and it begins suddenly and it lasts for a short period of time. What it does is it usually starts very suddenly and it doesn't last for long time, means it will stay only for short period. The pain which is coming, it will stay only for short period. So let us see the pathophysiology of this pericarditis. For example, if you take the heart, so as we have discussed the heart, so consider this is myocardium and this one is the pericardium, the outer portion. So here this pericardium, whenever it is getting inflammation, what is happening? There will be effusion in the pericardium. You can see here. So because of this effusion, what is happening? There will be acute pericardial effusion, means nothing but accumulation of fluid in the pericardial cavity. So whenever there is fluid accumulated in the cavity, automatically here the pressure is increasing. So if the pressure is increasing, ultimately the pressure will be on the ventricles. So because of the ventricle, what is happening? The pressure, due to the pressure, the filling volume of the ventricle diastole will be decreasing, and also it will lead to the decreased stroke volume, and ultimately as the blood is not flowing, so as the systolic pressure is coming decreased, automatically the BP is also getting lowered here. So this is the pathophysiology of pericarditis. So you'll see why the pericarditis is coming, means mainly whenever the pericarditis is coming here, firstly you will have inflammation. So because of the inflammation, there will be infiltration of the neutrophils. So because of the infiltration of neutrophils, there will be increased pericardial vascularity. So here whenever the pericardial vascularity has been increased, means the blood will flow more and more. So whenever it is flowing like that, due to the inflammation, due to the inflammatory factors, what will happen? There will be fibrin formation, and this fibrinous adhesions. So whenever the fibrin is coming, there will be adhesions formed between the pericardium and epicardium. So what is happening? Fluid is coming and accumulating in the pericardial sac. So as we have seen here, when the fluid has accumulated, the patient will result in the acute pericardial effusion. So as we are discussing this, if this is the heart and this is the pericardial cavity, when the fluid is accumulated here, the heart function is restricted or not? It was restricted. That's what you can observe, decreased diastolic pressure. So here ultimately it will result in the decreased cardiac output, and the pressures in the heart will equalize. The pressures in the heart will equalize, and the patient will result in shock, and it will ultimately lead to the death of the person. So this was the pathophysiology. You can see here. So here, due to the acute pericardial effusion, the pericardial cavity pressure is increasing, and because of this, whatever the ventricle diastole is there, the heart is unable to function normally. So there will be decreased stroke volume, there will be decreased filling volume. Ultimately the BP is getting lower and the pressures are becoming equal, and the person will lead to the death. Coming to the etiology, if you see, 70 to 85% are idiopathic or viral. We don't know whether from where they are coming, or it may be due to the viral infection. And if you see the infection, here the viral are like Coxsackie, Echo and adenoviruses, EB virus and HIV virus, and hepatitis B virus. Coming to the bacterial, if you see, they are Staphylococci, Streptococci, Pneumococcus, H influenza virus, and tuberculosis. And coming to the fungal, we have histo. This was the most common fungus, and we have Aspergillus, and also we have cocci fungus, and we have rickettsia, which is parasitic, and due to radiation, due to malignancy, and it is also coming due to the autoimmune diseases. Whenever there is malignancy of lung, breast or lymphoma or melanoma or primary cardiac, so during these conditions it will result in the pericarditis. And autoimmune diseases such as systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatic heart diseases, and also systemic sclerosis, vasculitis, and Behcet's and sarcoid diseases. During these times also the patient will land up in the pericarditis. And drugs such as procainamide, INH and hydralazine, and drugs such as penicillin and dilantin, these are the drugs which are responsible for this pericarditis. And other factors such as uremia or post MI or post CABG or trauma or amyloid. So these are the things which will cause the pericarditis during the MI or during the CABG procedure. There might be any injury that is coming to the heart. So during those times or during the trauma conditions also it will result in pericardial effusion. We'll see clinical manifestations. So here if you see chest pain, it is the most common. It will be sharp, it will be pleuritic, it will be retrosternal, and it will be radiating to the left side shoulder. So whenever you are sitting up, here the pain is being relieved. So it can mimic angina or ischemic chest pain also during the pericarditis, and the patient can have fever, myalgia and fatigue, and heart failure is very rare and it indicates myocarditis. Coming to the pericardial friction rub. So here this pericardial friction rub, it is up to 85% of the patient you can see. So you can hear scratchy or squeaking sound, and it is the classic three phase. So you will have atrial systole, ventricular systole and ventricular diastole. Now let us see the types of acute pericarditis. So we have different types of pericarditis. We have serous pericarditis, we have fibrinous pericarditis, we have purulent pericarditis, and we have hemorrhagic pericarditis. Coming to the serous pericarditis, this is mainly caused by non-infectious inflammatory diseases. So what are these non-infectious inflammatory diseases? Rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, and scleroderma, tumor or uremia. So these are some of the non-infectious inflammatory diseases. And nextly we have bacterial purulentitis. So these are mainly caused due to sufficient irritation of the pericardium. And nextly we have viral infections, which are antidates for this pericarditis. And if you see the morphology, you will have inflammatory reaction, and you can also find few neutrophils, lymphocytes and histiocytes. So these are all the things that are involved in the serous pericarditis. Coming to the fibrinous pericarditis. So this fibrinous pericarditis, this is the most common thing. So this is mainly due to the inflammation, exudative inflammation. Here the epicardium is mainly infiltrated by the fibrinous exudate. So what are the most common causes for this fibrous pericarditis? Means mainly acute myocardial infarction, post infarction, uremia, radiation and trauma. So these are some of the common causes for this fibrinous pericarditis. Nextly we have purulent or supportive pericarditis. So here you can find red granular surface which is coated with pus, and you can also observe lot of subsurface neutrophils. So mainly in the pericardium you can observe about 500 ml of exudate. So this much of exudate will be accumulating in the pericardium, and also immunosuppression, it will facilitate this purulent condition, and it is commonly seen in patients who are having emphysema or mediastinitis, endocarditis, burns and post pericardectomy. So these are the patients who are always affected with this purulent or supportive pericarditis. Coming to the diagnosis part, if you see ECG, echocardiography and gallium 67 scan with PET CT and gallium 67 with TC99 scan. So these are some of the diagnostic investigations that were done during this purulent or supportive pericarditis. Coming to the hemorrhagic pericarditis, if you see the blood here, it is mixed with fibrinous and suppurative effusion. So mostly it is mainly caused due to the tuberculosis or direct neoplastic invasion into the heart tissues. So it can occur in severe bacterial infection, and it is most common after the surgery. So it may cause the tamponade also, and clinical significance, it is always similar to the supportive or purulent pericarditis. Now we'll see what are the types of chronic pericarditis. We have adhesive mediastinal pericarditis and also we have constructive pericarditis. Coming to the adhesive mediastinal pericarditis, because of the suppurative pericarditis or cardiac surgery or radiation, it will result in the adhesive mediastinal pericarditis. Here the pericardial potential space is obliterated, and the adhesion of the axonal surface to the surrounding structures, it can occur here. And also clinically, the systolic contraction of rib cage and diaphragm may be observed, and there will be increased workload, and it will cause massive cardiac hypertrophy and dilatation. Coming to the constructive pericarditis, so you can see here it is mainly caused by hemorrhagic or supportive or caseous pericarditis. So here heart becomes, what is happening means the heart, whatever the heart is there, it is enclosed or it is covered with a scar or calcification. So here the thickness of the particular scar which is covering the heart, it will be like 0.5 to 1 centimeter in thickness. So it will resemble like a plaster mold. So this is the constructive pericarditis. So what is happening in constructive pericarditis? A new layer is being formed. So the heart will be encased. So it will be like scar or it will be like calcification. What is the thickness? It will result from 0.5 to 1 centimeter in thickness. Coming to the clinical management. So here treatment, it is depending upon the cause. So we are giving them analgesics mainly to reduce pain as well as NSAIDs, and we are giving them corticosteroids, antibiotics, and also we are doing the pericardiocentesis. Nothing but we are aspirating the fluid. So whenever you are aspirating the fluid, what is the pressure that is there in the pericardium? It is getting decreased. Pericardiocentesis means nothing but aspiration of pericardial fluid. And also we have surgical management. Coming to the nursing management, so here the patient need to have bed rest, and the patient need assistant when he is bathing if necessary, and you should provide bedside commodity. So because this method, whatever the method that you are doing, this method will keep less pressure. Whenever it is you are keeping less pressure and less stress on the person, the heart will also do not face any kind of pressure situation. So when you should always try to use bedpan, you should not get up from the bed however it is possible. And actually you should always place the patient in upright position. So what it will do means it will relieve the dyspnea as well as chest pain, and you should provide analgesics to relieve the pain and oxygen support mainly to prevent the hypoxia. And you should assess the cardiovascular system frequently. So you should watch the signs of cardiac tamponade, and you should monitor patient pain level. So what is the level of effectiveness of these analgesics which is given to the patient, you also have to check. And you should explain all tests as well as treatments to the patient. So before giving any kind of antibiotics, you should obtain patient history. So because the patients who are having allergy to penicillin or any kind of other type of drugs, again it will result in further complications. So you need to ask the patient about the history of allergy, and you should tell the patient to resume the daily activities slowly. So you should schedule rest periods, then you should try to convert those rest periods into a daily routine after a while. So this is the nursing management that you can do in pericarditis. Coming to the diagnostic investigations, so mainly we are going for laboratories, we are going for echocardiogram, and we are going for ECG. And a troponin 1 positive can be seen in up to 49% of the patient who are having this pericarditis. In ECG you can find out ST elevation and PR depression, and you should look for PR elevation in the lead VR. So this one is called as knuckle sign. And also you have to look for T wave inversions. And if you see in acute myocardial infarction, you can find out Q waves or this ST wave changes, but in this pericarditis you cannot find this Q waves or ST wave changes. And also echo, it is mainly showing us small accumulation of fluid. So these are some of the diagnostic investigations that were being done in the pericarditis. Coming to the key points, if you see the acute pericarditis, it may be mostly due to the viral or idiopathic, but it can also be caused due to the infection, radiation or malignancy or any kind of autoimmune diseases, drugs and uremia also. Here the classic presentation is patient will have pleuritic chest pain which is associated with the friction rub, and the ECG is showing us ST elevation and PR depression. Okay, these are the key points for this pericarditis. So with this I would like to end this session here. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you understood. If you do not understood, please drop them in the comment box. I'll try to re-explain you. And if you like the content, please like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.